Podcast. It's 2014 ConnectiCon going on right now. As you can see behind me, video games galore, stuff going on. Stay tuned, we get interviews, tons of people we're going to talk to. It's going to be awesome. Stay tuned for more right here on the B&M Baked Podcast. We're here at ConnectiCon with the one and only Maurice Lamarche. It is an honor, sir, I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
You were the voice of my childhood, I think.
Well, thank you. I remember standing there over your bed with the baseball bat at the end of it and a little propeller and narrating your entire childhood. I was lucky not to be arrested.
So you're that guy. I was wondering who that was.
Right.
Ah, jeez. So we all know you from your multiple things you voiced, but how did you get involved in voice acting? How did that start?
Well, I was, I was always a class clown as a kid. And I discovered early on that I could do impressions. I had a teacher named Mr. Fraser who was doing a Columbo impression. There used to be this TV show called Columbo.
Peter Falk for all you kids out there.
For those of you genre people who may remember him as the grandfather in The Princess Bride. And so he was doing the impression for the kids in the schoolyard, and I went up to him, and I just don't know how this happened because I'd never really been able to do much in the way of voices before. And one eye went cross-legged, and I went, "Excuse me, Mr. Fraser, sir, I'm sorry to bother you, but you're murdering a Peter Falk impression." And the rest is kind of moved on from there. I discovered I had this like superpower, and I just started just absorbing voices from the television. It was a bizarre thing. So all of a sudden I built, one day, like a year later in like the ninth grade, my friends and I sat down and we wrote down like that I could do like 30 impressions. And I'd never really done them before that. So from there, I did stand-up comedy in Toronto, then moved to Los Angeles. Luckily got made a regular at the Comedy Store right away and just began to do stand-up comedy around town and across the country. And then an opportunity opened up in voiceover to do a voice Inspector Gadget, and then that took off.
Chief Quimby, one of my favorites.
Here's your assignment, Gadget. Oh, Gadget. Yeah, I mean, it's basically a Walter Cronkite, a pissed off Walter Cronkite.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you've done many voices, as we know, as you were saying. My favorite, of course, everyone probably says is Brain from Pinky and the Brain.
Who?
Pinky and the Brain was my favorite.
Not familiar with that show.
I know.
Yes, my friend. We shall take over I was joshing with you. You understand that I have a sense of humor as well. Yes, even the Brain is not devoid of humor. Yeah, no, I love Pinky and the Brain. It's one of my fondest memories of my entire career, and it lives on in reruns and DVD sales. And when we come to cons like this, so many people who grew up with the show as little kids are now willing minions.
Yeah.
And we do these panels, and it just reminds us that what we did made a difference to somebody, made their tough day at school a little better or something like that.
Nothing like when it would come on, you knew you were like running home from school to get to see the Animaniacs, and Pinky and the Brain would come on. Oh my gosh! But it is every time me and my friends, all of us, anyone's like, "What are we gonna do tonight?" And of course, it is plan to take over the world.
Yes, the same thing we do every night: order in pizza. Yes, and watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Oh no, that's Rob Paulson's thing. I only did one episode of the Turtles.
So, as you're saying, Robert Paulson, of course, you're other half of the Pinky and the Brain team.
Yeah.
What was that like finding that person that is like, because you guys are like now like synonymous with each other now. It's like almost like my dad would call Frick and Frack the heart attack kids.
Yeah.
You guys are always together. It's like where one is, there's always one.
Well, we do actually have separate careers and separate families. We don't live in the same house or anything, but no.
Anymore.
It was to discover a guy like Rob, who's, I think, he's the fastest, most facile mind I've ever known. And to discover, that you love to play the same shtick, because we were big Monty Python fans and big Peter Cook and Dudley Moore fans, and British comedy, was very big with us. We grew up not far from each other, just a couple of 100 miles. He in Flint, Michigan, I in Toronto. So we got the same TV stations, and so we grew up with the same shows. And the references, when a guy gets your references right the first day you meet him, you go, I gotta shtick with that guy.
Yeah.
So, we've just always enjoyed each other's humor and had a great time. It's great.
That's awesome. I always call it, like Brian here is down the camera, is my heterosexual life partner.
There you go.
You always got to have one of them. That
Yes.
You can keep with you wherever you want.
Yes.
Whenever you're in trouble, that's the one you could call, and he's going to come get you. But I saw before they covered up all your stuff here that you were in Frozen, which I didn't even know you were in Frozen.
I was.
So tell us how's that? Does every kid, once they see you're in Frozen, start singing "Let It Go" to you?
It's funny. I do get a lot of "Let It Go." But the thing about this job is that I'm basically incognito and undercover all the time. Nobody knows it's me, especially away from a con.
Yeah.
Now, we've been having a little fun. I've been walking around the con, and any young lady dressed as Elsa, I go up to, and you can tell they got the Elsa costume, and it's a very, very distinct costume. And I go up to them, and I've snuck up behind one and went, "Don't feel it, conceal it, don't let it show. These gloves will help." And she looked at me like, "I'm going to have you arrested." And I broke and went, No, it's okay.
It's okay.
I'm the guy. I'm the guy from the movie. I played him in the movie.
I swear it's me.
So she was like, "Yeah."
Sure, buddy. Whatever.
But then the next one I saw, because undeterred, of course, I wanted to see if it would happen again. The next one I went to, she "Oh my God, I know exactly who you are. Oh my God, can I get a picture with you?" So and then we got about a 50-50 reaction. So
it's kind of like a brain experiment.
Yeah. So I'm going to continue doing it for the rest of the con. Any else I see, I'm going to go up and do the king for.
There's definitely a lot of them. It's definitely the big outfit
Big costume, no question.
of the con. So besides Frozen, you got going on. Are there anything else going on out there that people should be looking out for that you got coming up?
A brand new show on Disney HD, and now it'll soon be across all Disney platforms, called The 7D. And it is the story of the 7 dwarves. It's a retelling, a reimagining. Snow White hasn't been born yet. It's earlier in their lives, and they are
swinging bachelors that have their own.
They're always that. They're still in their minds,
hanging out, whistling as they work.
Yeah, but they are at the beck and call of Queen Delightful of the Kingdom of Jollywood, who's kind of a loopy, silly, but very sweet and well-intentioned queen, and her man-in-waiting, Lord Starchbottom, played by Paul Rugg. And and anytime there's any trouble, she rings the bing bong bell, and the 7D, the 7 dwarves, run to the castle and are at her service. So we have all these adventures, and it's a very arch kind of humor. It's made for kids, made for the little ones, but it's the kind of Tom Ruger is at the helm of the show, and he, of course, was the guy behind Animaniacs. I mean, he had many tremendous people under him, but he's the guy behind Animaniacs, and we brought that sort of the kids will love it, and so will the adults.
Nice
Sensibility to the show. So it's on at 10 o'clock. I think 11 Central. I'm not sure. Just check your local listings on all the Disney platforms.
So in 7D, who do you play that we can look out for?
Oh, I am. We're casting against type. I'm Grumpy. Yeah.
There you go.
And actually, you know what? I have, as cheerful as I am, I have an inner curmudgeon, especially when I'm driving on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles. That comes out, and Grumpy is my inner curmudgeon.
You got a lot of practice.
Yeah.
Get ready for the roll of drive on the highway. Go to the. Well, thank you very much, sir. It's been a pleasure to meet you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Fun.
So
thank you for ConnectiCon. Great time.
Thank you very much, and we'll be back with more here in the Baked Podcast in just a bit. It's the B&M Baked Podcast. We're here with Matt Herring, the MatMan.
Yes, you are.
And you wrote the unofficial Doctor Who companion book, but you're most known for the Secret Identity podcast.
I'm probably known for a lot of things. If you ask my daughters and my wife, they'll give you a completely different set of stupidity and things like that. But as we're here for the show, I'm here promoting my unofficial Doctor Who companion, which was a book I started in last August after Boston Comic-Con. And it came about after I did a panel realizing of the 300 people on this panel, probably 90% of them were under the age of 15 and did not even know anything about the old stuff. And I basically wrote the book that I wanted as a kid when I got into it. Because once you start watching, and I was watching Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor, and I did not like it at all. And then they're like, well, you know, there's 3 guys before him, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's one Luke Skywalker. Why do you mean there's 4 of these dudes? So I didn't understand it and did not take the time. But then when I did later on, when the relaunch in 2005 happened, I just got sucked right in. With comic books, I'm a completist, so I had to go back and own every single thing, watch everything. And I said, you know what, I need to write a book about it, and had a bunch of comic artist friends and writers put some art together for me. They sent me some amazing things, which I always tell people, you know, get the book and just look at the pictures. The writing really sucks in comparison to what these guys did for art, but it was a lot of fun. It was exhausting, and this is the first show that I've done promoting it, so it's a lot of fun to finally have it and get it out.
So I was looking at the art. Like I said, I've seen it beforehand. I saw the book and everything, and the art is like crazy good.
Oh yeah.
But I was reading the stuff in the book, and there's stuff in there like I'm a Whovian as well, so I know like what you're talking about with trying to explain stuff to people. But there's stuff in there that even the Who books that I've read didn't have in it, so that's kind of cool. Because I was like, I've always said like that should be in there, and it's in this one. So I was like, that's sweet.
That's it. I just wanted to make it as simple as possible, because a lot of times people overcomplicate things, and I think they overcomplicate it because they want to feel like it's an elitist thing. You know, if you're a Star Wars fan, you're a baby compared to Star Trek fans. And if you're a Buck Rogers fan or Battlestar Galactica, you are nothing to the Star Wars people. And there always seemed to be that elitist sect with Doctor Who. When I was a kid, that's why I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this. Forget you. That's too much I got to learn. So I wanted to make it easy, because it is an awesome world, it is a fun world. I did a panel in, I won't even say the city, but I did a panel maybe 3 or 4 months ago and sat next to that elitist guy that was turning around looking at me, you know, saying, "Can you believe the flowers that were out red, they were supposed to be blue?" And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. I don't watch it that closely. I follow the stories. I'm not looking for every detail. And that's what it is, because if you look at the target audience now, when you walk around the show, you'll see 14, 15-year-old kids that are into it, but they don't care about what color the second Doctor's flute was. They just want to know about him.
So not only do you do the books, like also you have Comic Apocalypse as well.
Yep.
But you also do a podcast.
Yes,
the Secret Identity Podcast.
You and I were talking earlier about we're rival podcasts, and this is a great time for us to get together, bury the hatchet, because those weekend rumbles that we have, they're starting to really wear and tear.
I'm getting too old for that stuff.
I know, so we just wanted to come out and just spread the love. But Secret Identity, this is our new banner that we had by our great friend, Mr. Chris Giarusso. He did the postcard. This postcard is about 3 years old, and it came about when we were talking about wanting to have a cool postcard. And Chris did a great one for us. Chris is an old friend of mine. And we were describing what we'd want, and I said, you know, I want to be jumping out of a TARDIS with a Captain America shield, looking like Jonah Hex. And Brian's like, I want to have one hand with a chainsaw like Ash and wear the Spidey 2099 top, because he'd be the only person in the planet wearing that, but he loves Spidey 2099. And Chris literally did this within a couple hours. We posted the show, and all of a sudden, here it is. And we've been using this ever since. Chris helped us put these great banners together, the front banner. And 8 years of doing this, and maybe 2 years ago we thought maybe we're closer to the end than we were the beginning. And it just seems like we are busier now. We've got this tour schedule this year, which is just incredibly insane, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're at the very beginning of that genre where we're like, people are like, hey, you want to come to our con? You want to come? You actually want us to come at your con and do things? It's like,
that is
what?
For us, that's the way we look at our podcast is, you know, we are so privileged and fortunate that people want to talk to us. Because if they don't want to talk to us, we really don't have a show. And when somebody is coming up to us and saying, hey, I got a new book I want to promote, would you guys help me? And I want you to help us because you guys are really nice guys and really cool. And I got an email from Joe Kelly's representation a few weeks ago for New York Comic Fest. And it came out and said, you know, hey, if you're interested in interviewing Joe Kelly, you know, send me a link. We'll let you know, blah, blah, blah. And Joe's a huge guy in the industry. Ben 10, I Kill Giants, his X-Men work, Superman work, Spider-Man. And then there was a little thing at the bottom that said, you know, P.S. Joe thinks you and Brian are awesome. And just let us know when you want to talk to him. And that really meant a lot to me. And that's the way that we look at what we do. We are privileged to do this. Nobody owes us anything. In fact, if they don't talk to us again, we don't have a show. And you see a lot of podcast people doing that. You know, like, hey, you owe me for this because I did a review. No, you really don't. Because It just
you're not getting paid
nuts.
for it. So
Drives us nuts, and it's sad. You guys doing a podcast as well. You feel like you get lumped into that because most podcasts, I don't say most, but a lot of them are negative, and they're the ones that get the attention.
Yeah.
Some guy screaming about why he doesn't like Future's End, using 50 F-bombs a second, and why this guy's a horrible writer. That you can't do that.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't talk about it, because it's all opinions.
Yeah, no, we're all about, in our show, we're all about bringing in anybody we could find.
Oh, yeah.
If there's a local comic book store or guy that's doing a comic in his own house, if we find him at a random con, we're like, hey, let's talk to you. Let's get it out there.
And those are definitely the guys you want to talk to, because they're the ones that need the push. DC and Marvel have been great to us, but they don't need us. They don't need us. They don't need. People are going to buy Superman regardless of what I say about it.
Yeah.
It's these small indie guys, and you can go up and down the aisles here. Griffin S., who's down at the end, who did a great shot, a Doctor Who picture for me of the 8th Doctor. He's got some incredible books that he's been doing with the guy George O'Connor. One of them's Healed, which if we didn't run into him at a show in Boston, we would not have read the most amazing book that probably I have ever read. And he's doing a book now, Baby, with George O'Connor as well. So you got to get out there and you find these people, and that was a big thing when we hit the shows. We're going to find those indie guys. We're going to find those guys that are doing some really awesome stuff that need the push.
Yeah.
And if Scott Snyder comes over and says, hey, talk to me, I'm not going to push him away.
Exactly, yeah. Like yesterday we talked to Maurice Lamarche, and he later on was walking out of a panel and he waved at us, and I was like, he waved at us.
Yeah, I still geek out about things like that. We've interviewed some huge people, and I interviewed Noah Hathaway Friday at the show because I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan. And I walked by him Saturday and gave him a CD because we were talking about Iron Maiden, which he loves. He goes, I never heard this Bruce Dickinson solo album, so I popped it to him. And he looks at me kind of squinting, and he goes, you shaved? And I'm like, holy, you know I shaved.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a little schoolgirl. I'm like, And then he walked by the table, and I'm like, there he is. And then he comes by and sits down and hangs out with us for a little while. So it's always cool when you find people, and we genuinely associate ourselves with only the cool people. That's if you're not being a nice person, we're not going to hang out with you because
exactly
it
that's
really
our
isn't
mission.
Worth our time.
That's our thing. If you don't want to do an interview with us, we ban you for life.
Yeah. Oh, no, we've had some great people. We've had some great the big thing that I've always come across is, you talk to a comic creator, they're not all extroverts.
Yeah.
Just because they're in the entertainment industry does not mean that they are, talk to me.
Yeah.
We had a couple guys, I won't say names, he was the nicest guy on the planet, but it's like, I don't really want to talk and do an interview because he goes, I'll do a written one, but he goes, I stutter. Yeah. I have a little bit of a stutter. I get nervous, and I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. And I walked away sad because I was like, man, this guy would have been good for the show, but I don't want to make him uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks for the time. We know you were busy. You got everything going on here today.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks for coming on the show.
No problem, and thank you.
So the Secret Identity podcast, when does new ones come out?
They come out every Friday and every Monday. And that's every Friday and every Monday for the past 8 years. You can go to secretidentitypodcast.com. You can go to the Facebook page, Secret Identity Podcast. It's a membership-only thing because we had to watch what people were posting because, again, it's an all-ages show, and all of a sudden somebody's posting some F-bomb or ripping a book apart, and then the guy who wrote that book and drew that book is sending us a message going,
hey,
what's up with this guy? So we had to be very careful, but come on in. We've got a great community, and we're always looking for more friends.
All right, so right after you listen to the B&M Baked Podcast, go listen to the Secret Identity Podcast. Everything, you can check them out. Matt, thanks for coming on again. We appreciate it.
Alphabetically, that's the way you got to do it.
Yes, exactly. So stay tuned for more here on the B&M Baked Podcast. We're here at the B&M Baked Podcast here at ConnectiCon 2014. We're here with Night Shift Comics. And they have a couple books that are out. The Mountain of Almost Certain Doom and Seized. Tell us about Night Shift Comics.
Well, Night Shift Comics is a collaboration between myself and Christina over here. Pretty much, I've been doing comics online for almost 5 years now, and Christina was doing comics by herself as well, and we met together playing World of Warcraft, and she said, I want someone to write me a story. I'm not very good with dialogue. And I was like, I can write you a story. In about an hour, I came up with a script for what eventually led to The Mountain of Almost Certain Doom, and we've been making comics together ever since.
That's pretty awesome. World of Warcraft. People you meet at World of Warcraft. You never know what's going to happen.
Seriously.
So not only do you have that book, but you also have Seized. Tell us about Seized.
Seized is a story of the elf who was not sacrificed to the dragon. And it's actually an original piece of Christina's. She can tell you more.
Okay. So Christina's over here. We'll just reach over here real quick. So tell us, since C's is your baby, so to speak, tell us a little bit more about how you got the 4-part series C's put together.
I really like fantasy and fantasy tropes, so it's playing off of the tropes that are common. The dragons, the sacrifices, magic, MacGuffins, and that sort of thing.
Sweet. So there's 4 of them. Now, how would they get? Do you guys have a website or something for Night Shift that people can go to and get your books at? Or
You can find us at nightshift-comics.com. That will lead you to both my personal site, kickassmcawesome.com, and Christina's personal site, twohorizonsart.com. And we update multiple times a week. We have active Tumblrs. We're on Facebook, Twitter. You can pretty much find us anywhere on the internet.
Sweet. So keep a lookout for Night Shift Comics, and we'll be back with more here at the B&M Baked Podcast. It's the B&M Baked Podcast. We're here at ConnectiCon with Wang of the book Runners. Tell us a bit about how Runners came about.
Well, basically, it came about because I grew up on the Star Wars original trilogy, and at the time that I started Runners, which was in the mid to late 90s, sci-fi was kind of at a lull. So it was the kind of book that I wanted to be reading, which is like a fun sci-fi space opera, and it wasn't really out there, so I decided to do it myself.
So I see a bunch of books here. How many books do you have total that are out there right now that people can get?
A total of 2 graphic novels. The first one is called Bad Goods, and the second is The Big Snow Job. And basically the series, which is a fun action comedy about a group of alien smugglers, there are right now 2 stories, and each book is a standalone story with some threads that kind of follow through. But each book has them take on a different smuggling run where they come up against pirates, police, bounty hunters, and in book 2, a little bit of a mob turf war.
So, Runners, do you just do the writing, or you do everything? How's it all work out?
Pretty much everything. Writing, penciling, inking, lettering, coloring. The main things are the writing and the art. And that I actually learned because I got my start in comics working on the Tick comic books for New England Comics.
Oh.
So
Don't tell Brian that. He loves the Tick.
Good to know. Who doesn't love the Tick?
He's the Tick master.
He was a great character. But from that, I learned, the craft of writing and drawing. And actually, that's what I wanted for my book. That a little bit more of the drama and action, but also a lot of that kind of fun humor and character banter.
Sweet. So, Runners, where can people find it if they're looking for it?
Right now, the main places are at shows that I'm doing, but also at my website, runnersuniverse.com. And I've actually posted it there as a webcomic, so people can check it out there, read it, see if they like it, and if they do and want a physical copy, then I have a store there where they can buy it as well.
Sweet. So keep a lookout for Runners online or here at any show. It's the B&M Baked Podcast. We'll get more just after this. All right, we're here at the Baked Podcast. We've finally gotten together, Pinky and the Brain, together in person. So we had a chance yesterday, like I was saying. We had a chance to sit and talk with you, or get a chance in a minute to talk with all of you. But we want to get you guys together to give us the classic Pinky and the Brain little thing. You guys have been together for years. We talked yesterday how you guys are like inseparable.
No.
Yes, you guys have a house in Malibu together. It's very nice.
Yes.
We have a house in Mousabu.
Yes, with all the Pinky and the Brain money we made.
Yes,
Yes.
all of it.
All of it. I think I got a 3-cent residual check
That's
the
it
other day.
right there.
Right?
That's all of it.
That's actually more residuals than we get for our show, so you're doing pretty good. So, Pinky and the Brain, when you guys first got together, what was it like? Was there like a moment when you guys were like you got together and you heard each other's voices together and you're like, this is going to work?
Well, we had worked together on Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Tasmania.
And Tasmania was,
Tiny
I think
Toons.
Tiny Toons. Tasmania came after Animaniacs, or it was on concurrently. We were making it, but it didn't have the Spielberg, stamp
Magic,
on it. Yeah. It had magic for us. We had a great
Oh, it was a
time
great
making
show,
it.
yeah.
But I knew when I first shticked with him on that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, I went, I love this guy. Because we were very into the same kind of British humor.
Yeah.
So when we did the first Pinky in the Brain, we had no idea if they were going to do any more. Because everything was it was an anthology, and it was like the first couple of weeks. And they were trying everything. So we thought,
We didn't really, most. I actually was familiar with Maurice because of his Young Comedian special with Rodney Dangerfield as a stand-up comic, and then you were doing.
I didn't know you'd seen
I did,
that.
and you were doing all of those Fuji commercials.
Oh goodness.
So I knew Maurice was a star on commercials from his Fuji videotape commercial back in the 19.
Which you can still find that on Funny or Die.
Really?
No, not on Funny or Die. On
YouTube?
YouTube.
On YouTube.
My Young Comedians is on Funny or Die.
I was so.
You won't recognize me. I weigh half what I weigh now.
I had not met him. I didn't realize what a good actor he was. He's clearly a great stand-up comedian. But then we got to work with each other, and it was narf at first sight.
Yeah, it really was. But I remember thinking, God, I hope we get to do more of these.
Yeah.
We had no idea if they were coming back because they were just throwing everything against the wall, and then it became its own show.
And it's arguably as popular as Animaniacs. It kind of got its own identity and its own audience.
And its own time slot.
And its own time slot.
We actually ended up being the lead-in show when the WB went primetime on Sunday night. We went up against 60 Minutes, which was, hardly a genius move.
Yeah.
But, for a show about a genius and an insane one. But that was more the insane move, I think. But we were on in prime time for a season, so there you go.
It was cool. It continues to pay dividends. You guys are here talking to us about it. It's very flattering. Every time we go to one of these events, we have a nice crowd and to hear us talk about the show. And it really is, as they say, all good. It's a happy experience from everything, the beginning to right up to today. It makes everybody, including us, very happy to be part of it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, thank you for taking the time. We know you guys are very busy, and I know you guys got to fly to save the world or take over the world, whichever you like to do.
I'm actually flying to see my son,
Yes.
who's debuting tonight at the Whiskey A Go Go on the Sunset Boulevard.
It's a big deal.
On the Sunset Boulevard.
On the Sunset
On that
Boulevard.
on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah, but that's a very famous rock club.
Yes,
Doors,
yes.
Yeah.
everybody plays there.
A couple buddy of ours have played there.
My son's band is called the Monsters.
Yeah.
And he's Jonathan Lamarche, lead guitar and vocals.
And
So
this kid is so freaking handsome. It's not even fair to the
yeah,
other boys.
come on. Yeah, he's a good-looking kid, but
Handsome boy,
he shreds too. He's
talented.
very talented.
Really good kid.
Yeah.
I guess it looks from his dad, I bet. That's
Oh no, from his
You
mom.
ought to
Thank
see-
God.
yeah. With all due respect
Yeah,
to my
you gotta
friend
see my
Maurice,
wife.
his wife is a knockout. Yeah.
So, anyway, thanks.
well, thank you guys. We'll definitely have to listen to the Monsters. Maybe we'll put them on the show. You can take a play. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll definitely.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you guys for taking the time. We'll be back with more here on the B&M Baked Podcast in just a bit. We're back here at the B&M Baked Podcast, and if you watched Brian and I's old TV show, yes, we've been on doing stuff for that long. We have an old TV show, Equilibrium TV. One of the stars of our very first episode, Dan, the guitar man Cahill, he's got a new project. Tell us a little about your new project, Dan.
My new project is Porcelain Clocks, so it's kind of a little bit of a mix of some of the 90s alternative movement. It's not quite Nirvana, it's not quite the nu metal thing that took over later on, it's somewhere in between. So if you listen to, say, a band like Failure, you'd be kind of close to it. And we try to incorporate a lot of elements, because I used to play in metal bands, I used to play in the Next Extension, which was more of kind of like a spacey exploration kind of band. So it's just kind of taken all the things that I've done over the years and put them into one project, I guess. We try to incorporate some elements of harmonies, the back and forth between guitar plays, so no one's really the rhythm and lead player, no one's really the rhythm or backup or lead singer. It depends on the song, it depends on who writes the song. Everyone gets their moment to shine, so.
Cool. Now we gotta say though, since we interviewed you guys so many times and shot so many of your shows, Brian and I's joke used to be that we could sing both yours and The Greatest Band That Never Existed. So we could sing any one of your songs. If you guys ever got sick, we could even fill in because we edited the show so often. I think I can sing Temporary to New Permanent like that if I wanted to, but I won't because no one wants to hear me sing. So, Steve, who's new to us, but is in Porcelain Clocks as well, tell us about how you got involved with the Porcelain Clocks.
Well, I'm actually new to the band. I started playing with them this past month. I had known them prior, just on the scene. I, played with the guys. I was a promoter for a bit, and I booked them. And just a great band, and really nice guys, and they really know their stuff. And what I like most about them is they're really business-minded, and they know how to get stuff done. And I think a lot of people in music lack that, and they've been real friendly to me, definitely.
Well, he's really kissing up. You must have really got him trained well already. Look at him.
Trying to keep my job.
He's over here. They're great guys. Stick with them for a couple months. Trust me, Dan will wear it on you. But anyways, so you're part. Yeah. Dan's face. That'd be awkward. So you guys are part of the. They call it the Con Crawl. Is that what they're calling the name? That's the name of it. Kinetic Crawl. See, I knew it was something with a Kinetic Comic-Con in it. So you're playing at the Burger Baby tonight.
Correct.
The hotbed of music, Burger Baby. So besides there, where are other places you guys playing out? If people are looking for information about Porcelain Clocks, where would they find it?
Well, if you wanted to find information on the band, we have a .com now, so we tried to take that step. Too many bands rely on their Facebook page as their only source of information, and I think that's just not quite. You need that, but it's not as professional as you can be. So we have the www.porcelainclocks.com. It seems fairly obvious that would be the place you would go, but that's our connection to all that stuff. We regularly we've played Foxwoods, we've played the Webster, in and around Northampton at the various venues there. We've been all over the place, so we're really trying to pick it up and play a few times every month at least, and go from there. We try to get a radio presence, working on the next EP, all sorts of stuff going on. So
nice. So there is a album out now people can look for?
There is an album out now. You can find it on, and actually if you want to get a shot of that real quick, you can find that on our web store, on our website, which I just named off, and it's also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, about a dozen other...
Anywhere you can find music, pretty much.
Pretty much anywhere you can find music, yep. And of course at our shows.
Yeah, so there you go. So Porcelain Clocks, the next incarnation of Dan Cahill's talented talents, here on the B&M Baked Podcast.